Go.
Hello and welcome, technicians from around the globe, to this training hour. My name is David, and I'm a technician, and this is Stacy. Stacy is a technician, coach, mentor, just extraordinary person, and it is her birthday today. So happy birthday to Stacy! And we're joined today by Mark, who we get to teach every week because Mark Zerzano invited us to be a part of his group, which is, I forget the name, beginning piano tuning and repair for beginners. It's like all the buzzwords. So there's so many people that are wanting to get into this craft. There's so many people that are trying to just figure out what this is all about, what this world of piano servicing is about, and we're here to kind of help. And so today's lesson is on doing a repair that as technicians you're going to run into. And that it usually doesn't happen when you're tuning a piano and all of a sudden an upright piano hammer shank breaks. That usually doesn't happen. But what does happen is what happened to me the other day. And story time. By the way, periodically, squirrel, you may see me do this. Last night, our dog comes running into the house and just starts barreling and trying to get something off of him. And he got sprayed by a skunk. Our entire house smells. I smell. I feel it. It's in my mouth. It's everywhere. So that happened at 10 o'clock last night. So I'm still waking up. I still stink, but we're here and we're doing this. At any rate, if you see me doing this, it's like I can't stand it. I get to the customer's house, and on the far left-hand side are three broken hammer shanks. And then the piano is really weirdly out of tune. So I'm like, hey, I think his name's Ben. Ben, what happened here? He's like, I watched some YouTube videos from a guy, and I thought I could tune it myself, and I started tuning, and then the big lamp that I had on the left-hand side fell down, and it hit the hammers and broke the hammers. And then I just decided to call you guys. And I said, well, I really applaud you for trying and getting started. If you want more help, we can help you out. But let's get these hammers fixed. I didn't know going into it what I was gonna have happen. I didn't want to set up another appointment. I wanted to do it all kind of in the same appointment. So I was just like, let's do this. It's been years since I actually replaced, in the real wild. I've demonstrated this for a while, but it's been years. So this is fairly recent for me that I actually had to do this. So I thought I'd start by just saying, here's the specific tools and what they do. And then let's go ahead and literally break a shank on this upright action model. And then I'll walk you through the process and then the pitfalls and the things that you need to know. But show of hands, has anybody done this in the field for an upright? Awesome. Logan, that's great. So Logan, as we go, if you raise your hand or interject and be like, hey, David, actually, here's another, totally do that.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a piano technician or what that even looks like? The Explorer course is just that. It allows you to explore the world of Pianocraft. Within this course, you're able to go and learn everything from the inception of the piano to how it works and how to tune it. This is the perfect course that allows you to start the process of becoming a piano technician to really understand what it is and whether it's right for you. If you have any questions about any of the courses we provide, simply go to theartisanschool.com.
But let's get started. Okay, is this not? Oh my gosh. I'm a sucker for pictures of top-down shots of tools and things all nicely strewn. This chef's kiss. Anyways, here's a series of tools that you're going to need to have on hand in order to do this repair. Now, I usually have this in a little kit, literally in a little box that it stays in my car. And it was perfect because I had this kit and I was just ready to go. So the thing that you're going to need to have is some kind of sandpaper, really rough grit. I like to actually have a sanding paddle just because it's going to be just more rigid, because I want to sand the tops of the shank. And if you have a fairly thin sanding paddle, several sizes, that's going to make your job easier. And we're going to go into that. I like to have, I usually don't like these. These are wire cutting pliers. I usually like to have actually flush cut pliers because when I put the new shank on, I want to nip it so that it's closer to the size that I want it to be. This is a little bit aggressive, but it'll do the job. Some people will use one of those. It's the craziest tool. It's like these little dog toenail clipper things. Do you have one, Logan?
Not with me since I'm not at home, but yes, that's
Okay,
what
but
I
you
use.
that's what you use. Okay.
Yes.
I've used those before, and I think the one that I had was so dull because it was like a second hand and it just messed everything up. So ever since then I've used these, but they do have a great tool. It's it's kind of like a cigar. I don't smoke cigars, but I've seen those like a cigar slicer, whatever thing. Anyways, those are another option. You're going to want to have a pin vise like this, as well as several different sizes of drill bits. And so you're going to want a drill bit the size of an actual hammer shank. I don't have that measurement on me right now, but
7/32.
Who said that?
Me.
Of course, Mark, you know the exact size. What was it?
7/32.
7/32. Get a 7/32 drill bit, and you're going to want to have that on hand, as well as a smaller drill bit that's a little bit smaller than where am I at? A little bit smaller than a screw. You're going to want a screw. I like to use generally like a sheetrock screw, but a small screw will suffice. So that, a pin vise, Phillips and flathead screwdriver is going to be good to have on hand. And this is a combo set. And I can't say enough good things about. It's one of those tools that there's not a lot of things that actually can replace this. This is actually a shank extracting tool. And we're going to go in how to use this. It's not that expensive for how custom it is. You can get them online fairly easily. But this is actually a fairly new addition. And this is a shank clamp. And this is used in tandem with the shank extracting tool, and it just helps clamp onto the shank and allows you to remove the shank entirely. In the past, I've just used a locking vice grip pliers, but I just like how small and easy to use this little clamp is. And so these are both sold at Schaff. Several, and I mean several, have a handful of replacement upright shanks, and we're going to go over that, why you need to have more than one, because they ain't all going to be perfect, and you're going to need to figure out which one is good. Some kind of a glue, whether it's PVC glue or tight bond wood glue, you're going to need to have some glue on hand. Do not use super glue or thick CA glue. Get yourselves either like PVC glue or some kind of a wood glue. And then finally, we have the hair straightener. What's the hair straightener for? I'll get to that. It's actually just so that I just always literally have it on hand. So like every time I change camera in the background, I'm like straightening my hair. Mark does the same thing. Don't lie, Mark. No.
You learned it from me.
I learned it from you. Okay. So this is the basic tools, and this is going to be more than enough for what we need to do. Now, I took the RPT exams. I took like the written and the technical when I was really young. It was like 16 years old. So
amazing.
25 years ago, I took that. And what is in my mind is a little blurry because I talked to Jake, one of our other instructors. He's like, there's no way, David, that the examiner did that much to the actions that you were working on, because the way I remember it, it was so chaotic and so bad, including this repair and how the instructor I remember messed up my hammer shank to make me repair it. So I will show you what I remember, but it probably isn't what happened, just as a caveat. So here we go. Little 16-year-old
When
David.
When I did the technical test, they gave me the model, and they had taken it all apart and put part of it back together in the wrong places.
Oh, gosh.
It took me a while to figure that out. They just have too much fun, these guys. It's too much fun.
Yeah, I know. If you think about it, they're doing this all day long at these conventions. They gotta be messing with some people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, but anyways, we're gonna go ahead and pretend that this is an action that's inside the piano, right? And so let's go ahead and do what I remember the instructor doing for me. Coming through and going like this. Okay, that's not so bad, right? That's okay, whatever. We can fix that. In fact, that's actually kind of nice. And at first I was like, hey, thank you, Mr. Instructor. And then what I remember is this.
And that is actually a good thing for them to do because we often
It is.
Like that.
Okay, and so this might be accurate. So you're gonna find that this is much more difficult to pull out than the hammer butts. So let's get started. We're at the action. We see that, okay, we got some broken hammer shank. Let's go ahead, remove the bridle strap, and we're gonna go ahead and remove the actual hammer assembly. So there's a screw on the under or back side of this jack. So I'm just gonna go remove that. From there, we can just move the action out of the way. So we are left with this. Not too bad. So we got the original, the butt and the flange and all that stuff, and we have a section of shank still within there. And then we also have our hammer right here that is not exactly sheared off flush, but it's pretty close. And so the first thing that I like to do is I like to go ahead and use a knife. Can't say enough good things about Benchmade, not a sponsor, but boy, that would be cool if Benchmade sponsored the Artisan School. Anyways, I like to take a knife, and what I'm gonna be doing is cutting the collar, the glue collar that's around the shank on both sides. Because when I'm extracting the shank, I don't want that collar to get in the way. Logan, is that kind of what you do too as a first step?
No, I use a heat gun, and
Yeah.
that releases the glue that way. So, no, I don't use a knife.
Okay. I like to use a knife because I feel like it makes me look cool. So that's the side reason. Mark, it's so funny. Yeah, some people know measurements, like you just said, like 730 seconds. I'm the worst at that. When people ask me like specific measurements, I go totally blank. So it's not crazy. I'm just kind of cleaning off this glue, and like Logan said, you could use a heat gun to kind of heat it up, and then that helps.
It works really well, by the way. It does work very well.
The heat gun. Okay. So with that cleaned up, I'm happy with that. It's all clean. I'm gonna do the same thing to this guy right here. But I'm actually not just gonna clean the glue collar off. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and sand this flush. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my sandpaper, put it on the bench, and we're gonna work on sanding this flush. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
So what I recommend is if you're gonna do this in the service call, go ahead and start this right away. This part, we want to get the shank glued up while we're tuning. And so that's why I really recommend getting started right away and get everything prepped out and get the shank installed, the new replacement one. Good grief, this is going to take a while. I have like
just to mention something that I've experienced. I used to try to book a lot of tunings in during the day, and lately I've been not. I've been just booking sometimes just 2 tunings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And what I found is that when something comes up like this, it's such a wonderful feeling to be able to take my time. And if the piano needs regulation, this I got from Barry Bradshaw, and he says, when there's work to be done, like regulation or this kind of thing, and you suggest it to the customer and they say, okay, when can you do it? Then he says, I can do it right now, today.
Right.
I can do it. And I find that not only does it give better service, but I end up making more money during the day.
So I am 100% on board with that. Fewer appointments and really creating a real meaningful service to the customer. I'm totally on board for that. And I think that that's going to be technician to technician. So for instance, we have one technician that he would go to a house and we could just give him one appointment a day and he would maximize and just make that appointment amazing and probably make more money for the company and himself than the other technician that did 3 or 4 a day. And he was good at that. Other folks are struggle with the idea of proposing work. They feel like it's too high pressure. Yeah. And it's hard to get over that.
Well, for me, it was just like, I don't want to sell. I just want to be more relaxed. I don't want to be rushing and then do a bad job and be late for the next person. So it's actually a dichotomy, because I do less tunings per day because I don't want to be rushed, and I know I feel I'm not going to make as much money, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then the result is I end up making more money.
Exactly. Yeah. It's this weird thing, and it's kind of like you have to trust the process. Early on, it's easier to do because you usually don't have that many customers. It's like, well, it's not like I have 4 or 5 customers a day every day. So you can really kind of work yourself into this mode for sure. So I totally agree with you, Mark. I only do, I just do a couple a day, and they usually turn into something more than just a tuning. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun, and you just have more fun doing it. I've cleaned off, I was going to show you this. I cleaned off this guy. And what some people will do is at this point, and you could do it, is a lot of folks will go ahead and at this point, drill. I'm going to chuck this into my drill. This little drill bit. They'll make a hole in the center of where that hammer shank is, in that hammer shank. Okay, we got the drill bit, and we got the hole, or we got the original shank right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and start that hole. I'm just drilling this in, and I want to be mindful of how deep I'm going with this drill bit, because I've done that before where I'm like going for it, and then all of a sudden it pops through the other side. On an upright hammer shank, we do not want that. We want to go pretty far, but leave a little space at the end of it. See, we want to keep that. And at this point, what some people will do, now that they've got a hole in there, is they'll wet it down. They'll use some kind of a solution or liquid. Some people use Windex. Some people, like myself, get a little bit of saliva and just kind of work it in there. I like to leave the DNA. So if in 100,000 years people want to bring back David Hayes, they'll have plenty of ways of doing that. But what's going to happen is that liquid, whatever it is going to wick down in there and potentially loosen up the fibers and whatnot, so that when we go to extract it, exactly, when you combine that with heat. Tristan says, I got blood on my piano. Stay tuned afterwards. We will cut the recording, and I have a Stradivaria moment regarding blood and a piano and rebuilding, but that is not going on record. So we will talk about that hopefully afterwards. Tease. Okay. So we got this all, got stuff on here. We're good. It's Tristan's blood or David's saliva or Windex, whatever. That's good to go. And I'm just going to go ahead and move to this guy. So this is where our clamp, because we have this existing shank still in there. So we have enough of this shank to go ahead and use the shank extracting tool kind of the way it was meant to be used. So I'm going to use this little clamp, and I'm going to clamp it roughly 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch from the base right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just clamp this like so. Now really make sure that it's nice and firmly clamped, because we don't want this shank extracting tool to move this clamp. And Logan, I see you shaking your head. Have you ever done that where you think you have it clamped and then it just doesn't, it doesn't pull it out?
Yes, it will slide, or I've had this happen. I've had it crush
Yes.
that shank, and then I had to do even more repair. So, and then I've also gone the full extent of the other part of your tool there, and had to reset everything because I'd gone full extent of it.
So, and to Logan's point, so what can happen, especially with these old uprights, is this shank could be very old and brittle. You're working at a 150-year-old Steinway upright. Boy, you got to be careful. But now that I have that clamped, I'm going to go ahead and take hair straightener, and I'm just going to I usually have it on a medium heat. Whew, but this only has high on this one. So I'm just going to carefully start to hold on to this, and it's just going to start heating up the hammer butt assembly. And what that's going to do is, in theory, loosen up the glue joint within that shank and how it's connected. You don't have to do a lot. Usually, again, I have it on a medium heat. Actually, this has a low. I could do that, low heat. And I'm just making sure that heat is focused around that shank. I've heard of a hairdryer working, but I've never done it. I've used yours. You've done
If I'm in somebody's home and I have to do this job and I don't have a heat gun or anything, I'll ask them if I can use their hairdryer. It's not ideal. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used like a paint stripper, like a heat gun, and that's pretty aggressive. I've also used an embossing gun. So now that I've heated this up, I'm going to go ahead and put this shank removal tool like so, and I'm going to start twisting. Wow, that's a good angle. You can see that. Let's do that. So here we go. In theory, it'll start pulling it out, and then that hammer butt will just flop to the ground. Come on, please work.
This is such an amazing way to do that, and a lot of technicians will think, beginners, that I'll just drill it out, and then you'll never get the holes to be aligned.
No, it's always like, and what will happen though is sometimes, and this might happen today as I'm extracting this, you might find that you're pulling, it's flushed. And so you have to pre-drill and then put a screw in there and then try to extract it. But it's just chewing out that. And your last resort is, what Mark just said, you use your 7/30 seconds drill bit and you pray to God and you try to drill it as straight as possible.
Don't do it. Take pliers and try to pull out little bits of wood out of the hole.
I'm not doing it.
You got to keep that hole. Well, certainly the one in the butt. The hammerhead is not as critical, but the one in the butt.
That's right. There's a little bit more leeway for sure. But now that this guy is removed, now that the shank is removed, I like to go ahead and use the drill bit and just make sure that hole is cleaned out of any excess glue and whatnot. So just cleaning it out, making sure that all that's good to go. Yeah, there's a lot of excess just glue in there. Cleaning that looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and think about the shanks. So I mentioned earlier, you need to have like a bag of shanks. Don't just think that, I'm going to have one in my kit, because these shanks over time, or even from right away, could be warped. So that is, they have a curvature or two. So the way you kind of test these out is you just roll them across a flat surface. Like that one's pretty good. It's rolling really smooth. That one's not so much. It's going wall, 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 wall. Same with, that one's actually the best. I like this one. We got a winner. So this is the one that we're going to use. And that's what we're talking about with selecting the shanks. So from here, I like to just do a quick dry fit to see like, okay, is that going to go in there? Yes, it is. I like that. It feels fairly snug. Now the next thing you're going to want to do, and this is on the RPT exam, is you're going to want to rough up the shank, but not just rough it up on this side. You're also going to want to slice a channel. And they're going to look for that, or at least they used to look for it. I don't know if they still do, Mark. You want to cut a channel, and they want to be able to see that so that the glue can escape. So
what I do is I take the blade and just scrape a flat side off of it.
Yep, just like that. Very simple, not a lot. You can just kind of do that. And then I usually take some of this rough 30 grit sandpaper and just kind of rough it up. Just want to make sure that that glue, when we glue it in there, has things to adhere to. So this portion of it, we're set. We're set to go ahead and we can install this. And what we might do is because this is what takes a while to dry and get ready, we might go ahead and start installing that right now. Now, Logan, do you at this point install it back in the piano, or do you wait to get everything more cinched up?
Well, first off, I don't use a knife. I use a hammer shank reducer, and that rough will take care of that surface as well. And you can also get a clamp for your drill to drill that out from shaft as well.
Oh yeah, Logan, I think
that's the technique I typically use. At this point, okay. I would have the shank in the hammer butt, and then put it in the piano, and then I would, as you're doing now, and then what I typically do is I eyeball where the shank would come up into the hammer, using the adjacent hammers as a guide. I'll mark that, and then I take my little snips and I snip it.
Yep.
I generally try to snip a little extra just because I don't have to redo.
You can always go down.
You can always take off more.
That's right. So I think we're fairly close to the same process. Same here. I've gone ahead and just put the shank and the hammer butt back in. I can see that they are actually everything's fairly parallel with each other, which I'm happy with. All the shanks, my shank isn't going left to the or right. And so like what Logan said, this is a good time to, let's see if I can do this. Bear with me. This isn't a bad idea to, at this point, trim this guy. So whether you want to use the cigar slicers, the shank reducing slicers, or just your pliers like this, or flush cut. What I don't recommend, I used to use this as I used to have a little hand saw, and it would just I just messed up the hammer or the flange. It messed up the pinning. But just kind of marking or scrolling a line, you don't want them absolutely flush. You can go a little bit lower. But that being said, what Logan said is so true, is you don't want to cut off too much. You would rather err on the side of maybe a little bit extra than more than what you need than not enough. And so for that reason, I like to go just right at the top of the others. Just go. And so I'm actually flush with the others right there. And so from here, I would usually use my a file or my sandpaper paddle and just kind of make it, and just sand it down manually. Now, I did make it, that's actually more than I thought was going to be remaining. So now I'm just going to take another slice. By the way, the nice thing about our school is we have all these action models, and we can, and we can totally just keep mangling stuff. And that's another reason why, by the way, I don't like using these. If you're going to do this method, go ahead and get the end nippers, that are really sharp, really flush, because it'll do a nice slice for that shank.
So I'll just share with you what I do. The dog nippers have a blade, but they also have a stationary piece. So I will line up the top of the stationary piece with the neighboring hammer, and the thickness of that stationary piece with the blade that goes under it cuts it exactly below the flush part.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Do you buy the ones, Logan, Mark, that are available at Shaft? Is that where you've gotten them?
No,
Where do you get them, Mark?
I get them from the pet store.
Really?
Yeah, and you can sharpen them too. If they get dull, you can sharpen them. Just a little bit of filing will make them sharp enough to cut the wood easily.
Yeah. So basically, at this point, we've dry fit everything. We've cut the shank to size, and this is the point now where I like to remove the shank and go ahead and glue the shank up. So what I like to do, and everybody's different. I actually like to put a little bit on the shank, and so it's to the point where it's going to start to drip, and I drip a little bead of glue down in the hammer butt. Some people will try to just kind of fill it up like this. I've just always kind of done it this way. And again, if there's a right answer or wrong, I don't know what it is. This is just what I've done.
I've heard cabinet makers say that the strongest joint is when you put glue on both parts.
That's so funny because I've heard that too, but then I've also heard no, you only want to do it on one part so that the other thing can dry to the other. It's so crazy. Then other people are like, no, what you need to do is you need to put it on both parts, but you need to put a little bit of salt or sugar in between so it holds them together. Well, oh my gosh.
In the case of gluing a dowel into a hole like that, one bit of glue on the shaft is fine.
Also, I don't know if people saw what David did, but he was twisting the shank as he put it in to create the glue collar.
That's right. That's exactly it. You stole my thunder, Mark. I was going to say that.
I thought you missed it.
Shame on me for my...
David,
hold on, I'm going to refresh.
Okay.
I know, I'm going to refresh it. Hold on just a second. That's funny.
We'll be back.
Yeah. So, and what Mark just said is right, is I went ahead and started to twist the shank so that it was creating this nice little donut collar. So, it's bugging me. This one right here is so loose, the repinning on that one. So if I was at a customer's house, I would go ahead and repin that too. But that's all good to go. I'm liking this. I'm going to let that glue up while we go ahead and work on... Actually, before we do that, I want to show you this. The thing that you want to keep in mind is this right here. Not only do you want the shank to be properly spaced, so that is from left to right, you also, from front to back, want to make sure that it's in a position where all of these catchers are lined up as well. Because if you're not careful... And if there's a lot of play, one of these could be, the one that you're working on could either be held up or too low. So really be sure that everything is lined up as you're gluing everything, and making small micro adjustments as you go is a good idea. Okay. Now's the harder one. If you're like, oh, that was the easy one. Yes, that was the easy one, guys. Now we're moving up a level. We're going into more boss mode. And I don't know if this is going to work. And I feel like that every time I do this portion of it, when it's flush, I'm like, let's do this. Hold on, back up. This is the part that we're doing next. And the first thing that we're going to do now that we've sheared off everything, cleaned it up, put a little bit of liquid or whatever in there. Now we're going to go ahead and just thread the screw into there. So we're just going to put it in like so. We're going to be using our shank extracting pliers again, but instead of clamping onto the shank, we're just going to be using this screw as the replacement shank. But luckily, we're able to do it like this. Now, the thing that you want to be very careful as you're heating this up and extracting it is you want to make sure that I don't know what you would call them, the fork of this is not obstructing that shank from coming out. That's where I usually have messed up in the past, is where I'm like, oh man, it's going to work. And I start pulling it out, and I'm just pulling out the screw because the foot of this is basically bracing the top of the shank so it can't come out. So be very mindful of that. So
what
I have
I've
this
done,
kind of, yeah.
What I've done with my tool is I have ground off the corners of the bottom.
Oh, that's a good idea. So you basically, it's going to be forced to come out either way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea, Mark. So what Mark's saying is grind these down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you just grind these down a little bit at an angle so that it's like wedge shaped, that would be so much better. I love that. Okay, we're going to do our hair straightener.
I like that hair straightener. I like that hair straightener. Usually what I've read and I've done is you get a little butane torch and you heat up the screw.
Right. Yep. And that's what I used to do until this technician, a female technician, she kind of showed me this trick. I'm like, that's brilliant. And she's like, yeah, and I already have one. I'm like, I need one. So it was one of those moments. And this is like a really small one. It fits in your kit. And it works really great. It doesn't. The thing about the butane and whenever I'm carrying a torch is I just inevitably seem to char up something or discolor something, and I hate that.
Yeah, that's really clean, that one.
Yeah, it's a really clean way of doing it. I'm actually 50%. I'm 50% hoping that this comes out in one go, but I'm also hoping it doesn't, so I can show you a real world. What if it doesn't come out? And that happens. So I'm just kind of holding it on here, feeling like that's probably about good. I'll quickly chuck in this.
It's very satisfying, eh? When these things come out.
Oh, like that. I know. That was like a cheese pull. My kids are into this idea of like a cheese pull, like with pizza. It worked. It came out just fine. No issues. If it didn't come out fine, I would, especially since it's the head and I've already got a hole kind of started, I would just ream it out with my 7/32 as best as I can. But this is good to go. So what we can do from here, coming back to our action, is start the process of just gluing it back onto the head. Now, it did char it up a little bit, so because I have this on really high heat. So what I like to do is if there's any kind of discoloration, I just get my sandpaper. I'm a little OCD when it comes to this stuff. I just don't want to see any kind of evidence that a technician was here. I'm like Bigfoot, you know? Like Bigfoot. You don't know if he really exists or not. He's just... That's exactly. Technicians should be like Bigfoot. I'm just cleaning that out a little bit more. Some people, and I don't remember the guild, but roughing up the shank as well as scoring a line, again, same process for that glue escapement. Because I was using these chunky pliers, there's a little bit of a piece that came off. So I've already kind of roughed it up and created a glue escapement. So we're good there. So now I'm just going to kind of do a dry fit. And yeah, that's going to work great. It is still a little high. I'm going to go grab another tool just to show you another option. Bear with me.
While he is out, they do make a hammer reamer tool as well. You don't have to drill bit, but they do make a reamer tool for that very process.
This is another option. Yeah, thank you, Logan. That's totally true. They do make the hammer reaming tool. This is another option that you can use. Just be careful. As you can see, I'm holding the shank against the hammer rest rail just to make sure I'm not hurting anything.
When I'm replacing these, it's most of the time it's in a spinet, and it's trying to get a rasp in there would be rather.
No kidding. Logan, you're like the spinnet whisperer. You're always working on spinnets. It's amazing.
I cut my teeth on a spinet, so my first repair was replacing jack springs on a spinet on my own
Really?
piano. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So
I feel like I didn't have a lot of spinet work because I worked and apprenticed in a rebuilding facility. So we didn't have really a lot of spinets, right? So it wasn't until I was doing a lot more field work that it was like, oh my gosh, this is hard. So
yeah,
I just put a little bit of glue on in the hammerhead, and we're gonna go ahead and just place it in. Make sure to take care of any glue seepage, spillage. And there we go. Ahead.
I've also replaced an entire set of hammers, which would be a similar process here. What I generally though is I go every other hammer, so you can have the others as a model. So that's just a note for.
You know what? That's a good that. Yeah, and by the way, Logan, I do that same every other when I'm like repinning. When I'm like repinning the hammers too.
Yeah.
Is like every other, so it keeps everything in the right orientation. So I'm kind of having a hard time right here because my middle one is all loose because I just need to tighten it. Hold on just a second. This is something you should probably do ahead of time, is make sure that all of the hammers, the shanks, the flanges are nice and tight. So now I'm just kind of leveling off everything, making sure everything's level, not only with the back of the tails or back to the moldings, but also the tops of the hammers as well. So as long as you're making sure that's good, I'm also checking, okay, are my catchers all lined up correctly? Is my shanks all lined up from side to side? We're good. That's gravy. We're happy with that. So that's literally the entire process. From start to finish, that's how you would do it using these tools. And that's something that all day long we usually charge a couple $100 to do, for the expertise, for the knowledge, for the how to do it. Logan's like, no, not here.
I charge an hour worth of labor. That's it.
So do we.
Yeah, $30. That's all we did. That's all it's charged here. So
can we fly you to Portland and you just do that for us, and we'll pay you the 30? And good grief! Oh my gosh, it's still in my mouth. And by the way, a skunk. I've only ever smelled a skunk like from a distance. Like, oh, you smelled the skunk. It smells different when it's in your house, when it's at the source. And our dog got it on his ear. Sorry. Questions about this?
Yes. So sometimes the shank breaks at a clean angle.
Oh, yes. And then you say hallelujah.
Yeah.
So what Mark's talking about is if the shank actually is breaking, and a lot of times this happens with older pianos. So with older pianos, I don't remember the kind of wood that they used, but it wasn't maple. And maple doesn't break like that, really. I don't know if it's like a cedar that they used or what, but a lot of times it just breaks in this like perfect, like it's not even all the way broken at times. In those cases, all day long, I'm just gluing that back together. In fact, if there's a half an inch or more of just kind of a wood to wood that could be glued, I'm gluing that every time. In fact, I'll even say this. I usually have a bunch of these guys. These guys are awesome.
Okay.
These little baby clamps. Those are great for clamping. They're actually fairly stiff, so these guys work great. Other folks will tie a little bit of string around it. The only thing is with that, as you know me, I'm like Bigfoot. I don't want people to know I was here.
Yeah.
I will always take that string off by the end of the service call and clean up the shank.
Nice.
By the way, this is going to be crazy. I mean, this is how bad my OCD is. If I'm working on an old piano and I'm replacing a shank like this, it bugs the snot out of me that it's a different color. If I got a brand new bone white maple shank amongst my other 150-year-old darker shanks, I will literally ask for coffee and go out to the backyard where there's dirt and stain up the shank so that it's a little closer to the color of the other neighboring shanks. I don't know. That's a problem. Yes.
Hi. I use straw. Hi. I'm from Israel. And I'm in a car because I just left a customer. When I have this, as you mentioned, this shank that is not cut clean, but you have two parts, I use a straw. I have straws in my bag, and you just put it in, and it acts like your small clamp, and it does a great job.
It does a great job for me. I don't like that now. For me, I see a straw in the piano. It just bugs me.
I cut it afterwards.
Oh, you cut it afterwards?
Yeah, of course. It just holds it, and it holds it perfectly, and then you cut it off.
Oh, okay. I love that. So I'm totally on board with Miles's the straw trick, because most of the times I've seen not only straws left in there, but also the metal cylinders that people have used in the past. And I'm like, now we are introducing, not only is there metal in there and it adds weight to it, and now I see it, again, it's a solid repair. Whether you're using straw, the string, if you're leaving the cylinders in there, it will hold, it will work. It's just, for me, I like the idea of just making it so that it's like neither Miles or I were ever there. It just is perfect, right? And that's where you get a lot of joy out of the craft. Logan, what do you thought?
I generally don't use those. I just go ahead and replace the shank.
You do?
Yeah, just be done with it, because way I figure that introduces a possible weak point down the road. So
it could. I thought the same thing until I read about a test and a study they did on, I think it was Titebond 1. And they said that after gluing the two pieces together, it was like 95. It was like an outrageous percentage higher that if there was going to be a break in the future, it would not be where that glue was adhered to. It was like some crazy study. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that.
I've heard that too. The glue joint is stronger than the wood.
Yeah. So if that changes,
it'll break just above or below that glue joint.
Yep. I
agree with Logan 100% there, because I've repaired broken headstocks on guitars, and you can repair that crack. But if the wood is mangled either side of it, you're not repairing those cracks, and there's still weak points in the wood.
Oh, that's a good point.
I mean, the chain broke originally, so it broke because the wood itself is weak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, they make two different sizes that you can get at the storehouses. And so this is Mark, what's the other size? You got a 7/16 and 7. Oh, you don't know. Okay, I don't know either. I thought you might know.
They come in different lengths. One for a spinet, one for an upright.
That's right. That's right. So
I typically just carry the larger uprights and then trim them to size. That way I don't have to have both sizes in my toolkit.
Yeah, the ones. Yeah, so that's for the kind of the generic size. Then they also make one that is a thinner, smaller diameter for like consoles, like historic, stuff like that. And yeah, just having a couple bags. By the way, take them out of your car and put them in a climate controlled-ish area, because these are made of wood and they will bend and change and whatever with the humidity and fluctuations of temperatures. So
that's where that hammer reducer, that shank reducer tool will also help with that size issue.
Right.
Because when you have especially when you have the older pianos that may not have the standard size shank.
Yeah. By the way, sometimes I'll get in a situation where I'm gluing down that shank, or I'm putting in the replacement shank into the butt, and I'm like, man, it needs to come over to the left or to the right. What do I do? Do I elongate the entire hole? Typically what I do is I just trim down or sand down the shank so that I'm able to move it just slightly to the left or the right, and then I glue it and then keep it in place. That's totally fine. I've not had that come back to bite me yet. So.
Or take your heat gun and kind of mold it that way.
Right. Yeah. So this is something that you can do in the customer's house. Early on, I was too afraid to do it in the house, so I would take, just so I could just not have the pressure, I would actually take that hammer and the whole assembly and then the neighboring one back to my shop and extract it, and just because I was too nervous to do it. So I would do it at a discounted rate and bring back everything and have it most of the way there. And so I would just kind of do the glue up in the home. So again, kind of baby steps, but at least now you kind of have the basic tools and the processes and techniques to do this. And by the way, for those of you that are like interested in getting started, or maybe you've been doing it for a while, but like, hey, it would be nice to have some of this stuff. We do offer like an online courses that you get it for life. So if you bought it, it has all of the repairs, all of the stuff, and we're always adding to it. And so for those that have even been doing it for a while, you know what? I kind of want to just have all this on hand. We have all that stuff for those that are interested. And I think Steven's going through the course right now. I think he absolutely hates it, but you know, whatever. Miles, are there a lot of pianos in Israel?
Yeah, there are many pianos. I have. I'm working for about 35 years now, and I work 2 or 3 pianos a day, and I have like 2-month waiting list right now.
Wow, that's fantastic.
What an awful problem to have.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good job. I love having you here. Any more questions before we sign off on this repair?
All good.
Well, we will see you next week. Either myself, Stacy, or Mark can help you out if people have questions. Post them on the group. If you also have ideas for future live training events, we're always, interested in that. Whether it's tuning, voicing, repairs, business. We could get some advice from Miles in Israel, and how do we get booked out 2 months? That's awesome. Anyways, thank you so much. Happy birthday, Stacy. And we'll see you guys all next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.